Hello, Terracon4 here. So today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on setting up the light and also to a certain extent the heavy exoskeleton for Unreal Engine 5. Alright, so the basic idea is first you're going to want to actually add to a project under the Epic Games Manager or whatever. You're going to need to add the light or heavy exoskeleton into your project. So it'd show up under the contents folder. Here it would be. In this case, we've opened this, we've gone to the maps and just opened up the light exo demo map. Then after this, though, in order to actually add this onto your own characters, you'll need your own character. In this case, here we've got the, we've just added third-person character starter content, so go here, grab this. So we've got a blank character that we're going to add it onto. This is presumably the equivalent for your own character in-game. So we'll start off by, we'll open this. Then we're going to go back here, and this is a UE5 skeleton character, and here there's two demos currently, the UE3 demo and the UE5 demo, and here's the demo one running around. So we're going to use, because it's the closest, in this case we'll just take stuff off of this one, so select that, Control B, and you'll find here under Light Exoskeleton, Demo UE5 Demo Third Person Blueprints is the UE5 Light Exo Third Person BP. In the Heavy Exo, all the blueprint characters are in the main folder, if I recall right. They're under the main Light Exoskeleton Blueprints folders where you'd actually find the demo characters for the Heavy Exoskeleton. But this is basically what we start with. Things that we're going to need to add are basically the exoskeleton pieces. So here we have our existing demo character. So we can say we want exo test suit. This is the legs, and then there's the arms. And so in this case, we're just going to take these, copy, go to our new character that we want to put this on, click the mesh, paste, make sure it's on the mesh. Exo arms test, go over there, click it, once again, make sure it's on the mesh. Then we're going to select both of these. Their default location rotation's a bit off here, so set the location to properly 0, 0, 0, the rotation 0, 0, and 0. And with this, it's at the proper starting orientation for our character. Now, we need to actually make it so our character can use this. So here we could go to the event graph of the demo character. And that's pretty much all this area down here. So let's just start off by taking this big colored area, Control C, go to our own character's event graph, and Control V. It'll give you a little air thing, just confirm, it doesn't matter. We're missing a thing. All right, take this, right click, refresh nodes, and with this, these update exoability things will now be referencing their own as opposed to trying to reference something on the old. So with this, your new character has the code. Now this is basically for cycling the materials and doing some other stuff. If you actually want to use these, you could right-click and create variables so if these will all work. Set any default values you want, arms visible stuff. Like the demo lets you toggle things on and off. If you don't care about any of this on your own character, like you just want the exo straight up, then you could basically just delete all this. We're just going to skip that because, again, you'd right-click, create the variables. That's basically all there is to those options. You can customize stuff further in your own project, but the core things for getting it working is here. Now this, set reference for exoframe childs, this is basically the code that you need to run on begin play. So here, our character has a begin play node up here. So we're going to say set reference exoframe childs, set reference exoframe childs. So basically on begin play, we're now calling this and then doing whatever. I think it has a different name on the heavy exo one, but the core idea is there. This just has to be called on begin play. You can also right click and do begin play. But again, we've already got the node up here, so that's where it's coming on this case. So basically, the core thing you need to do is say, hey, take our exo parts, the various mesh pieces, get child actor, and then this will reference the actual actor itself that is carried by that component. And then you'd set exo reference skeleton. For the heavy exo, it's like set heavy exo reference skeleton. Pretty much the same, but just with heavy in the name. And that's it. But for UE5, or if you are using a non-UE3 skeleton on your mesh, like say your character mesh is something that does not match the UE skeleton by default, then you're going to need to start using these set exo bone names nodes, which is basically take these, drag off of them, set exo bone names, or again, be like probably set heavy exo bone names on the heavy exoskeleton one, and basically one of these for each. And these basically mean that you can manually set the name which it will use for each of the bones that it will attach to. Pretty straightforward. Now we will go and actually make this work on our skeleton. Well, actually here, let's just compile this, save. And so here's our new thing over here. So Alt-S to simulate, and right off the bat, we're getting some lacking of socket things, and we're getting some weird issues with stuff not really working right. Well, that's to be expected because this character doesn't have all the same sockets and stuff that it needs to carry everything. So we're going to stop, and we're going to go here and see, well, what's it actually trying to use. The pelvis, that's a bone which we have, sure, but the spine UE5 socket, we don't have that. And some feet sockets, let's see, where are those? There are feet. Here we're using exos. You might wonder why. By default, it would be like, you know, foot_R or foot_L for the mannequin from UE4, but for UE5, we want to make sockets for these. So let's go here to our example character and click on this, open the skeleton. Now we're going to our new character, find its skeleton. If you don't know where skeleton is, you could go there and just click to this instead to open its skeleton from its mesh. And then, so, yeah, these both have the exact same name here, but yeah, this one on the left, we shall shove over here to keep these a little bit better organized. So on this far left side, we've got our example demo stuff. You can better see the bones and sockets by going here to Bones, Enable Sockets, and Bones All Hierarchy. So with this, you can easily see and click on whatever you want. So right off the bat, things that you're going to need for pretty much anybody. You're going to need certain arm sockets and stuff for the exos to actually know where to balance or to leave parts so that the IK works. So I'll just start off with here, upper arm L. We get this upper arm L socket. You can either create these fresh yourself, or you can just copy and paste these off of the demo skeleton. So here, upper arm L, paste. Control-C, Control-V you can use on stuff to copy and paste. Or we could take the upper arm R, right-click, add socket, and in this case we'd want to move this up a little bit. There we go. There are the upper arm ones, there's the thigh ones, which are down around next to the knee. So copy and paste these over. As you can see, it's down there. Go back here, calf L socket, copy and paste, or, yeah, wait. Yeah, no, this is the one down there, calf L, yeah. So let's put on the thigh. So this one goes down here. Control-V. So now I have a socket down there. This one, let's make it so the sockets are properly showing up. Then on the other side, copy the other thigh one and calf one. You need to go and select it here to do the paste. Some versions it would work if you just select the bone here and click paste, but yeah, not all versions of UE does that work. So calf R, and then go down here to where the calf is, calf R, Control-V to paste, or right-click paste. Yeah, paste sockets, there it is. Keyboard shortcuts are a good thing to get used to. However, UE5 skeletons have a thing where their ankle's down here. On the UE4 skeleton, which is what the exo suit frames were originally built for, their ankle is like up here. So basically, get your foot and add a new foot_R socket, which in this case, we've got with these foot R and L exo sockets, which are up here. But let's just do this from scratch rather than copying off of that one. So we've got our socket. So let's just call this foot or exo socket. And F2 to rename it, Control C to copy, Enter to reset. Now we're going to take the socket and we'll just move it up to like here. And then we're going to go to the other foot. Instead of foot R, we'll go to there, foot L. Add a socket. Select it, double click or F2. Foot L, exo socket. Whatever that is, you want to Control C, Control V, copy. So copy it. Now go here to the event graph on your character. Find the here for the foot stuff and paste. In this case, I used the same name that we already had, so it doesn't really matter. But let's go into this world and Alt S to simulate. And yeah, you'll notice this one is at the right height, but this one that we just made is not. So my recommendation is take your skeleton and open up your skeleton view so it's alongside your world view while you're simulating. And using this, we can say, well, here we've got this foot L socket that we made. It needs to be a bit higher. And there, just like this, you can more or less find the right position. And now, just, well, save and you'd be good to go. But we've kind of got this whole issue going on with the spine. That ain't good. So what's this about? Well, the default skeleton is built for a character with 3 spine bones. Here, we have 5 spine bones, but we want to have a bone that roughly matches the original position, but there isn't one. So we can just take spine 05, add a socket, and adjust this one's location to roughly match around here. A little bit more forward. Hit R to go to rotate. And up here you're going to see there's the snapping. If you don't want it to be snapping in 10-degree increments, you can disable that for smoother stuff. And otherwise, so we'll just say here, we got our spine 05 socket. Control C. Now we'd go back over to the character and say, hey, what are you putting for the spine? Control V, Control V. And with this, it would be setting it to use whatever socket we made here. So now we go back here, Alt S, and yeah, my mouse is giving me some issues. It's not quite right, but it's close. So we can take this and move it up here. Say we want it there a little bit more forward, pressing against the back a little. You know, this is the rough idea of it. Ah, that's not quite what we wanted. Come on, mouse, stop giving me issues. I need to get a new one. Oh well, the basic point here is, yeah, you'll find your location and you can mess with this to see how it matches, like maybe your character has a big back or not. At the same time, your character's not as broad-shouldered like with the UE5 one, so you could take these and pull them in a little bit, or leave them out a bit. But the general idea is you have a little bit of control over where some parts are. But now, imagine you have a character that is not at all compliant with the UE4 or UE5 mannequin. You've got differently named bones, and these different bones might be using different rotations. Say your character has, let's see, a spine bone, but instead of here, you'll notice if we click on this one, we see the X axis, that little red arrow, is going up. And we're seeing that there's a blue one going off to the right, and the green one, which is the y-axis, going off forward. Well, what if your character's bones were a little bit different? Like, you've got a new skeleton where the bones are like red points forward. Well, if you do that, then you're going to have some weird issues. So if you have a character that's skeleton has different names, rotations, transforms, and everything from the UE mannequin, then for basically every one of these bones, which is, yeah, every one of these, your pelvis, your foot equivalent, and each of the other sockets, the spine ones, the arm ones, basically every one of these, you're going to need to create your own socket, which is, luckily, pretty straightforward. We've basically just done that. basically you'd find your own bone. Like in this case, we want to spawn 0.3 equivalent bone, so we find a bone that roughly matches it in the skeleton, and we just right-clicked and we added a socket. Then we'd name that to whatever we want, and we'd go back and we would plug in that name for the equivalent one here so that we will find and target this socket. And if it's the different rotation, we basically need to come here and say we have the socket and we need to rotate it to match the default bone rotation on our demo skeleton. So on the demo skeleton, we can, go here and look at, here's the foot. If we tap W, we see Z is up, Y is to the right, X is forward, so we need to rotate it to do that. If we want this torso bones, we'd be finding that the spine 0.5 is X is up, Z is to the right, and Y is forward. So we basically need to take our socket on our own character. Even if it's completely different, you can take your socket, position it roughly where it should be, and you can rotate it to whatever the heck so that it's X is up, Z is right, and Y is forward. So basically you just add a socket over each bone and you rotate it to whatever would match that rotation on the default UE mannequin skeleton. And now this should work. You move it to the right location, and it should work. And with this, you'll find that you have, even if your skeleton doesn't actually match, using sockets, you can still get the desired effect. So you don't end up with some weird thing, as long as you get it positioned correctly and rotated correctly. So do whatever you want, but the exact details are, of course, going to vary. Sometimes you might have a character who has, like this, different numbers of bones, and you're going to have to just find the approximate bone that would match and put a socket on that and use that. Other times you're going to say, well, we've got multiple arm bones, but they're differently rotated, so just add a socket onto that and twist that bone so, again, matches the UE skeleton's rotation. And then, again, you'd come here and you'd find the given bone which that was used for, and you would set the name of whatever that socket you made was. Whenever you're done, save everything, compile on your character, and then you can go and actually play with them. So, the basic overview is, yes, to use this in UE5, or in other cases, you start off by, you take your own character, open it up, add the exoskeleton pieces, and if you don't want to do the copy-paste approach, then do child actor is the actual component that you add. And let's just shove this back up here for a moment. You'd add a child actor component underneath your mesh, and you'd go here and just find the exo arm whatever component or actor class, and then that's how you'd most take it. And then you'd want to zero it onto your character's mesh. This assumes that your character's mesh's pivot is at the same location as this one. If you find that this has it like all the way up here, then that might be a case of, well, your character's pivot is at his waist, in which case just offset it by the amount to roughly get it right. But this is the general gist of things. So, and also you'd probably want to rename this to be convenient and understandable. Then basically you'd go here, you'd drag these out, or again, you'd copy paste from the demo one, connect up the arms and the legs, then you'd get the child actor reference and set exo references skeleton with a reference to your character mesh. That means that the animation blueprints on these actors is going to be checking the location of bones on this mesh's skeleton. So because of this, and these nodes here, set exo reference skeleton, which is currently set to the character mesh, which we got by just dragging here. This basically says that these two actors are going to be following this skeleton. And because the bones aren't all using the default names, we can basically say here the pelvis bone. In this case, the pelvis bone is the same name. Nothing changes there. The foot bones, they didn't quite match up in location, along with the spine bone. That one doesn't even quite exist. So we just create sockets on the closely matching bone and move it to where it needs to be in order to match up roughly based on the original mannequin skeleton. Move it, get the name figured out, then copy and paste that name into the given thing, and now this bone position from the exosuit will use that bone's or socket's name, And with this, you could have a character which has no bones at all sharing any name relations or rotation relations with the original. And you can replace every one of these with a socket, and as long as the character still has roughly the right proportions, it'll work. For the UE5 mannequin, it pretty much just comes down to you need the offset the feet and the offset spine. And then there's the standard sockets, which we use for targeting, so the legs, IK, and stuff bends in the right way. There is another tutorial video on how to, which shows this. It's an older one, doesn't include specifically UE5 stuff, or the idea of quite as much of using this on other foreign skeletons. So there's some more information on that one that went a little bit more into some of the animation blueprints and other stuff, if I recall right. But this one's mostly going to be replacing that, but still, hopefully between this and if you really need, you could look at the old one. This will hopefully give you the idea of roughly how to get this working on your own characters. And now if you want to actually test on this one, go to details, auto, possess, player, 0, and Alt-P, or click this, and there we go. And now you could have it on your different character. In this case, it's a UE5 one, fairly straightforward copying over here. Just again, add the sockets. As you saw, I was messing around with the shoulder, so they're a little bit not balanced looking there. But oh well. And the proportions were originally made for here, the UE4 mannequin. So for some skinnier characters, it's going to poke out a bit more. It might look slightly off, but it will still do, it'll do a decent job of bending to try and conform it to whatever you put it on. So hopefully this has proved helpful. If you have any questions, post them down in the comments below. And until next time, stay productive and stay healthy, everybody.